Have you ever been mid-sentence, right in the middle of a great conversation, and suddenly, bam, you hit a wall? You're trying to figure out how to describe exactly how much of something you have, and the word just completely escapes you. It's so frustrating, right? Whether you're at a busy coffee shop or trying to wrap up a meeting, we've all been there. Well, let's dive into this explainer and finally solve this everyday frustration. If you're ready to stop second-guessing yourself when expressing amounts in English, you are in the exact right place today.
Now, what's really fascinating about these two simple little questions, how much or how many, is that mastering them is literally the secret to unlocking a huge piece of English fluency. I mean, think about it. These are basically your gateway to expressing yourself clearly in, well, almost every part of daily life. Picture yourself at the grocery store asking a clerk for help finding much apples. You're going to get an awkward pause and a pretty funny look, right? Or imagine writing a super important email for work and using the wrong word to describe a project budget. Those tiny slips can completely change your message. Getting this right prevents those conversational pitfalls and, honestly, instantly makes you sound so much more natural and confident.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll cover what quantifiers actually are, then we'll break down countable versus uncountable nouns, learn how to use some and any, master much, many, and more, and finally we'll wrap up with a quick practice session to lock it all in.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, What are quantifiers? The basics.
I want you to think of a quantifier as a spotlight. It sits right in front of a noun to give your listener a really clear, immediate picture of the volume or number of whatever it is you're talking about. Imagine calling a friend and just saying, "Hey, I need flour." Their first thought is going to be, "Okay, but how much? Are we talking a pinch for a sauce or a literal truckload to bake 50 cakes?" Without that little spotlight word right before the noun, your sentence is basically incomplete, leaving your listener totally in the dark. Quantifiers bridge that gap. They answer those core questions, how much and how many, so the exact picture in your head transfers directly to theirs without any confusion.
Moving on to Section 2, Countable versus uncountable nouns. This is the golden rule.
You know, it's kind of wild that English makes us split the world into two distinct buckets before we can even finish a sentence. Things we can physically count and concepts we just can't isolate. Let's peek into that first bucket. Countable nouns are exactly what they sound like. They are individual, discrete items you can literally point to and count. 1, 2, 3. Apples, cars, students. And since you can isolate them, they can be singular, like 1 apple, or plural, like 3 apples. But then, we have the second bucket. And this is where things get tricky. Uncountable nouns are substances, masses, or abstract ideas. Think water, sugar, money, time. You can't exactly point to a time or a water. So here's the golden rule that absolutely changed the game for me. Uncountable nouns are always treated as singular. We'd never say 2 waters or 3 monies. Actually, grasping this philosophical split isn't just about passing some grammar test. It is the absolute bedrock for every single rule we're going to look at next.
All right, Section 3, Using some and any. I like to call these the flexible friends.
Let's look at just how adaptable the word some really is. It works perfectly whether you're dealing with countable items like apples or uncountable substances like water. It's an incredibly forgiving little word, especially when we're trying to be positive or polite. Imagine you're hosting a dinner party and want to set a warm, inviting vibe. Some is absolutely your best friend here. For an affirmative statement, you can just confidently say, "I have some apples for dessert," or "She needs some water for the table." It just flows. And when you're making offers or asking for things, some totally softens the interaction. Asking, "Would you like some coffee?" or "Can I have some help?" sounds so generous and cooperative. It doesn't stress the exact number, it just politely offers an unspecified amount.
But check this out, because this is where it gets really interesting. As soon as the sentence turns negative, or you're asking a general question where you honestly don't know the answer, some steps out and any steps in. Now, any is just as versatile across both countable and uncountable nouns, but its psychological job is completely different. Say you open your fridge and it's totally bare. You wouldn't use some. You'd say, "I don't have any apples," or "She doesn't need any water." The word any highlights the absolute zero, the total absence of the item. And for genuine questions, it works the exact same way. Getting to know a new coworker, you might ask, "Do you have any brothers?" You're not assuming they do. You're leaving the door wide open. So just remember, positive vibes and polite offers get some, while boundaries, negatives, and open-ended questions get any.
Which brings us to Section 4, Much, Many, and More. Meet the heavy lifters.
Okay, remember that golden rule we talked about earlier? This is exactly where it pays off. When we want to talk about big, substantial amounts, we have got to respect the boundary between the countable and the uncountable. Many steps up strictly for those countable items we can point to. If you can physically number them, like cars, books, or trees, you have to use many. On the flip side, much takes care of the uncountable concepts. Things like time, stress, energy, or money. Because you can't put a neat numerical value on them, much handles the heavy lifting. And let me tell you, it is amazing how jarring it sounds to a native speaker when these two get swapped. Saying something like, "I have many money," instantly breaks the illusion of fluency. Keeping these guys firmly in their own lanes is a huge step towards sounding natural and effortless.
Now, take a look at their shared personality traits here. Both much and many really prefer hanging out in questions and negative sentences. While it's not like strictly forbidden to use them in positive statements, doing so often sounds a bit too formal or just unnatural in everyday casual conversation. For instance, it feels totally natural to ask, "How many cars are outside?" or to vent and say, "I don't have many friends in this new city." And over on the uncountable side, you'd comfortably ask, "How much time do we have left?" or stress out by saying, "We don't have much money." They both vividly express large quantities, but they really feel most at home when we're asking about a total or pointing out that a whole lot of something is missing.
But hold on, here is a fantastic exception to keep right in your back pocket. Honestly, I think of this as the ultimate cheat code for English learners. The phrase "a lot of" or "lots of." This phrase is incredibly versatile and boldly breaks the strict noun rules we just went over. It works beautifully for both countable and uncountable nouns in positive statements. So let's say you're mid-conversation, you want to describe a large amount of something, and you suddenly panic because you can't remember if the noun is countable or uncountable. Just deploy "a lot of." You can totally safely say, "She has a lot of books," which is countable, or "he drinks a lot of water," which is uncountable. It's a wonderfully safe, incredibly natural choice that completely saves you from overthinking during a fast-paced chat.
All right, let's wrap things up with Section 5. Let's practice together. Time to test your knowledge.
Let's put all this theory into actual practice and see if we can figure these out together. We're going to choose from our key 4 words: some, any, much, or many. Here is our very first scenario. Do you have blank questions? Based on what we've discovered today, what do you think fits best right there? Take a second and think about the tone of the sentence. If you guessed any, spot on. Because this is a general question where we genuinely don't know the answer, any steps in perfectly as our flexible friend. It feels natural and is grammatically rock solid. Do you have any questions?
Okay, moving right along to number 2. I want blank sugar in my tea, please. Let's look at the clues here. Ask yourself, is this positive, negative, or an open-ended question?
Exactly. It's a positive statement and a super polite request, so some perfectly handles that uncountable sugar. It creates that really warm, polite tone we talked about earlier. I want some sugar in my tea, please.
Let's try a slightly trickier one. Number 3. How blank brothers do you have? The big clue here is the word brothers. Is that a noun we can physically count, or is it an abstract, uncountable concept?
Right, because brothers are plural and you can count them one by one, and because this is a question asking about a potentially large amount, many is going to do the heavy lifting here. How many brothers do you have?
All right, here is our final scenario for today. I don't have blank time to play today. Take a close look at the noun time and pay attention to the negative tone of this sentence itself. What fits best?
Since time is an abstract, uncountable concept and we're dealing with a negative sentence, much is literally the only choice that works. I don't have much time to play today. Awesome job. We've totally got this down.
So take these foundational building blocks out into the real world. You are going to be amazed at how much more confident you feel when the right words just naturally fall into place without you having to freeze or second-guess yourself mid-sentence. Now that you hold the keys to this grammar, will you ever look at a simple request for water or a casual question at work the exact same way again? Keep noticing these patterns in your daily life, see how many sentences you can build today, and thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.